Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to take a trip down memory lane. Let's revisit the Asus G15. Now, I purchased this gaming laptop a little over 1 year ago, and my life was never the same. Well, that's not really true. It did begin I would say, love-hate relationship with the Asus G15, and that's because on paper, the G15 pretty much checked just about every box anyone could ever have wanted. And the other thing that made it a unicorn was it was delivering all brand new hardware in a single machine. Now, generally, that doesn't happen. So, what were you getting at $1,850 US? And by the way, I'm including a link in the description because the Asus G15 is still $1,850 US. Over a year on the market, and it is still one of the best laptops out there. So, the brand new Ryzen 9 chipset that it launched with, fantastic performance, also fantastic battery life. This machine gives you the ability to trickle charge over Type-C. You've got an Nvidia RTX 3070 Max-Q variant, so it's not a powerhouse, but it'll pretty much play anything you throw at it. And a gorgeous, brand new, again at that time, 15.6-inch, 165 hertz refresh rate IPS panel. It was the first QHD panel of its kind. And of course, after it came out, and by the way, you couldn't even get this, right? It was out of stock pretty much permanently for like 10 months or 8 months. Every manufacturer followed suit because, well, this was a refresh on hardware. So, brand new display, brand new CPU, brand new GPU, and then a magical 10-hour battery life. Of course, you've got to turn off the discrete RTX 3070, but big deal. And again, trickle charging. So, well, what wasn't so perfect? First and foremost, the RAM is soldered, half of it, not all of it, which means the most you'll get out of this particular build, again, the one I've linked, that's $1,850, and it does go on sale quite often for around $1,550. And if you want it, I recommend trying to hang out and wait for that. This has 8 gigs of RAM soldered and then 1 slot to upgrade. So if you throw a 32 gig card in here, which I did back at launch and now have done again, first Crucial, now I'm working with Sabrent, which just started to roll out their RAM, then you've got something that isn't going to give you any sort of workstation experience, but you have a very good processor, a very good GPU, neither of which are best in class, but still incredibly competent and potent, if you will, in 2022, paired with a great display that kind of paved the way for all machines going forward, as far as I'm concerned, with this higher resolution, higher refresh rate, and higher color accuracy. And that's what made it appeal to me as a content creator. You know, it wasn't enough just to be thin and light, have great battery life, a solid GPU, a solid CPU. 2 NVMe drives can be installed in this at once, but don't try to push it. I think, leave the Hynix 1 terabyte that comes in there. This only supports Gen 3, and that's perfectly fine. I've discussed this. It's a great NVMe drive, SSD. And then in the secondary drive, you want to throw something like a Sabrent 4 terabyte drive. It's going to work beautifully. I mean, this is what I've had in there basically since launch. But I did go through many headaches with this, growing pains. The soldered RAM was something that really had me torn. The fact that there's no integrated webcam, nice microphones on this machine, but no webcam in a pandemic. I mean, no webcam and no pandemic is weird, but do it inside of a pandemic? Granted, it is what it is, right? I hate that expression. But it worked out. I really enjoyed it. I knew I didn't need the webcam. I have plenty of webcams and devices with integrated cameras and many cameras. If you follow my channel, I have too many cameras. So, with all of that said, really the only thing that ended up being a drawback for me was the lack of Thunderbolt. Because again, everything I've told you is pretty much flawless about this machine. Now, optimization for AMD is still a work in progress. I feel like for everyone who does the rah-rah sis boom bah that AMD is changing the game, that's a half-truth. Maybe it's a little more than half. They forget to tell you that while AMD is making, great strides in efficiency, and that's admirable because we need all of this business to move in that direction. Apple has done it, obviously. AMD is working on it, and Intel's kind of sitting on their hands. But optimization for Intel is still better. What does that mean? It means that a wide array of software, whether we're talking about games, creative software, just tend to do better in certain instances still with Intel and greater stability. For me, with video editing, in the first few months I used this machine, I had so many crashes, it almost turned me off. I mean, if you go back and watch the Chronicles, you'll see it. I had a lot of problems with the Nvme drive upgrades, random blue screens of death, the speakers making poppy farty noises. All of that's fine now. It all ended up getting resolved. And I covered that, blow by blow. And the machine is still working just as well as it did when I decided to keep it. It's working just as well as pretty much anything you can buy in the marketplace now. And it still has, just because of those three things I mentioned, again, the display, CPU and GPU, and battery life, I'll make it 4 things, it still has what is incredibly coveted here in 2022. And while this has been refreshed, there are new models, we've got the TI GPUs, I still think this is going to be the way to go as its price drops. As this gets phased out, we get to clearance, and you can start picking this up for a little over $1,000. Don't even think about it. Grab it. You're basically stealing this thing at that price as far as I'm concerned. And that's because its performance isn't going away. The newer machines that I'm reviewing, we're just starting to get with 12th gen Intel chips and similar Max-Q GPUs. I expect that they're going to have a little bit more of a gain. Are they going to change what you're able to do with the machine? No. Are you going to get better battery life out of those machines? Likely not. And by the way, I didn't even mention the matte display on here. I love, 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 love. And that is something that I think, if you care about, it's important. Now, this isn't the only machine with a matte display. There are many. But just something I felt compelled to point out. And it doesn't hurt that the keyboard and trackpad are excellent, and the speakers, which I should have spoken about earlier, even though they were making farts at the beginning, they still ended up being some of the best speakers you'll find on any gaming machine, let alone a machine in this class, in this form factor. And when it comes to I/O, really good still. The design and styling, not my favorite. The fact that the chassis feels like it's predominantly plastic, even though it's a mix of components. What I expect is aluminum, because you can feel that it's cold around the edge of the body. That sounded weird in retrospect. Headphone microphone combo jack. 2 Type-C ports capable of display out, their display port 1.4. A Type-A USB port, Ethernet, HDMI. It is not 2.1. That's one thing I wish they had done. And then, of course, your charging port, and also the rapid charging on this, right in line with today, with everything that's out. I mean, it charges up fast, and you get long battery life. That is what people want. Now, the LEDs being there, not the best idea from a design standpoint. I haven't seen any issue with the chin, so to speak, the bezel. People were worried about it becoming deformed from the heat venting on it. I haven't had any issues with that, and I have used this machine quite a bit. Kensington lock, more ventilation, a card reader, which I absolutely love. That's another thing that you just won't find me really picking a machine for personal use if it doesn't have a card reader. I mean, I would really have to fall in love. And then another Type-A port. So solid support, trickle charging. I mentioned if you want to go ahead and throw a 65 or 100 watt into that Type-C port, it will charge this thing up, which means you do not need to carry its power brick. Although it's kind of worthwhile for the extra performance and for the fact that it does charge the machine up so quickly. So all in all, easy to still recommend this. I didn't think I would ever be able to say that. I mean, when I kept it, I knew it was one of the best machines out there, but I didn't think that it would necessarily be this long lasting. In fact, durability was one of my key concerns with this machine. And if you remember my coverage, you remember that distinctly. But here in now May of 2022, the Asus G15 is still a regular in my day-to-day, whether it's work, play. The machine can do it all, and it's still thin, lightweight, great battery life. Easily a recommendation. Now, do I think you should buy it for $1,850? Absolutely not. Do not buy this for $1850. I understand why it's still priced this way because of its specifications, and most people will not know the difference between this and refreshed hardware. But if you're going to spend close to $2,000, get a new machine. Get something that's not over a year old, that's still really good like this. Get something that's great, that's brand new. Do yourself a favor, because it's probably going to get refreshed in 3 months anyway. That rounds it out, folks. Oh, and the Wi-Fi performance is good, too. Kind of important. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe and please stay safe. Later.